Hi, Todd Wente here with Path to Progress for July 1st, 2025. Half the year's gone. Half of 2025 is gone. It's a new year for the new fiscal year for the company that I work for, so Happy New Year. And my goodness, we are here in my mobile office, getting ready to go into the main office, dealing with a lot of thoughts. I went and saw a movie yesterday. It doesn't matter what the movie was. And in that movie, it was really interesting. I was watching a story that played out, that probably I have seen played out in my own life and in the lives of many other people hundreds of times. It was a story about how to make progress. It was one of the clearest examples of what I think is necessary to make progress that I have ever seen. And I compared it with another situation that I experienced yesterday during the day, where the same lesson was in play, but was handled in a very different way. The lesson is this. Sometimes we can see long range for the goals that we're needing to hit, but it takes tremendous self-awareness to identify our own blind spots and to identify the progress, the pieces of progress that are critical for us to make to move into the next stage. And absent that self-awareness, we need somebody else. You know, so many of the stories of throughout time, starting with Homer, really, starting with the Bible, moving through all of recorded history. So many stories, and not always what we would call literature, but often pieces of literature. Try to resist against this and wind up presenting us with a situation where you can't avoid it. So much of literature, so much of story is about the relationship between an individual and a mentor, the individual and a teacher, the individual who wants to make progress but is unable to because they cannot see their own failings, the individual who wants to move forward, but they can't because they don't know what it is that they need to address. They don't know what things they need to make progress on. And that's why we have friends. That's why we have social interactions. And that's why in some cases those social interactions become very, very powerful. As I was watching the movie, I was watching a situation where an individual started to discover, after some really horrific events in their life, the individual started to discover the value of this individual that was trying to give them information, that was trying to give them advice, that was trying to give them wisdom, that they had been fighting against because they felt like they were threatened. By the same token, I saw another situation where an individual was, where I was in an interaction with an individual, and the individual was saying, no, I know the right things to do, and was not open to some of the information that I had about things that we needed to perhaps watch for in the process of what we were working on. We need others. I need others. Today I am going to try and be open to others. In order to make progress, I'm going to be asking questions of others and trying to figure out what I need to do based on what they see. Not necessarily what they want, but on what they see. I think that's a critical piece of making progress. I don't know if this will be useful for you as you're watching this, but I know as I am thinking about people that I love, I see some of them fighting against the wisdom and the perspective that others can offer. and my heart breaks because I am understanding better, whether we call it mentoring or we call it schooling or we call it education or we call it therapy. The perspective of others gives us a more clear idea of, can give us a more clear idea of next steps in our path to progress. I hope this has been useful for you this morning. I know it's been useful for me, and I got a lot of work to do. So I guess I better get to it. Thanks very much. Share this video as wide as you possibly can. Let's see if we can get other people to come with us on this path to progress. In the meantime, my name is Todd Wente. Hope to see you next time. Nulum Diem. Until then.